Greetings. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about how I organize my practice sessions and how I stay on track and sort of plan and get things done, basically. So I've sort of developed a system for myself over the past few years, and I don't really think of it so much as a practice routine, more like a practice framework. And the reason for that is because it's not like I'm doing the same thing every day at the same time, but I've sort of set up guidelines for myself that help me make sure I'm hitting the things that I want to hit, and I'm actually working on things over a longer period of time. So I'm really sticking with things that need to be stuck with, essentially. And I've learned a lot from this trumpet player, Tom Hooten, who plays in the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and he posts all sorts of great stuff. But essentially, what I'm building my framework around is this practice sheet that he gave out. And so what I've done is I sort of write in my own exercises and things that I'm going to work on. So this is the practice sheet, and you can see down here are all the things that I work on, or the groups of things, and then along the top are the dates, and then I can sort of check in boxes or write tempos or whatever it is. And so basically what this helps me do is, let's say I'm working on like a tune, for example. And I think this happens to a lot of us. We start something new and we get really heavily into it for maybe a few days or even a couple of weeks, and then it sort of tapers off. And that's fine, if it's working for you. But I think what I've realized for myself is that I want to be more consistent, and I also want to cover more ground when I'm practicing. And I think maybe the most important thing is to actually use the time that I have in the smartest way possible. Because again, I think a lot of us, and I was certainly this way, especially like when I was in college or maybe even a little bit after that, I would have time set aside that I knew I was going to practice, or maybe I would just decide to practice, and then I would go into a practice room and I would have an hour, for example. And a lot of times, a large chunk of that time ended up being me just playing things that I already did well. And that's fine for a little bit. I mean, it's always great to review things, to touch over things that you already do. And it's fun, but it's sort of like holds you back from, I feel like, the progress that you could be making if you sort of refined things and focused in on what you really should actually be working on. So I just want to briefly talk through my actual practice sheet just to give you an idea of what I have. So it's essentially it's four main sections. The first section is very raw, fundamental sound things. So there's a short warm up, and then it's working on sound stuff like overtones, high long tones, and then slow movement / intervals. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this video, but just to give you an idea, the second main section is more specific technique things. So I have four different technique exercises in this section, and those sort of rotate throughout different weeks or even sometimes different days. And then the third section gets more into music stuff, like reviewing tunes, improvisation. And then the last section is different projects. So if I have recording session coming up or different things like that, or if I'm learning music for a band, for example. And essentially, one other aspect of this that has helped me a lot is actually using a timer. So I've been using this little kitchen timer, and I can turn it on and just set number of minutes. So if I want to do 10 minutes, I can just set it up to whatever I want and then start it, and then it beeps when it goes off. So the reason I like this is because now it sort of gives me a set amount of time, and I sort of have this rule with myself where I'm not allowed to go over the timer. So basically, if I'm working on one specific thing and a lot of times I give myself 7 minutes. When it starts, I'm playing and I don't put the horn down. I'm actually playing basically that whole time. When the timer goes off, then I can take a break, but I'm also not allowed to go over. And the reason for that is that keeps me from that thing of just like doing what I'm already doing too long and sort of ignoring the stuff that I actually should work on. So basically, like with my practice sheet, most of the sections or each individual exercise has like 15 minutes total time. And so the way I do that is like 2 7-minute sections with a 1-minute break. So I'll play 7 minutes, put my horn down for 1 minute, and then pick it up. And the 1 minute is like, I don't use the timer for that. I just sort of rest for a second, maybe like stretch out my arms, and then pick the horn up and then do the second 7-minute chunk. So that is the level of detail that my practice routine or framework has. It's not very strict at like 9 a.m. I do this thing, it's more like I have these things that I want to get done, and then I find the time in the days that I have to do them, and then I sort of like work on them when I can. This has actually helped me quite a bit in terms of tackling weaknesses, especially like technique things, but also reviewing tunes and learning new tunes and learning music, things that I've written or things that other people have written that I need to get ready. I think one thing to think about is like, yeah, it's great to hit maybe like 10 or like 15 different things throughout a day in little chunks, but that sort of sometimes can actually keep you from going really in depth on certain things. So what you can actually do is maybe use the sheet for like a period of days. Then if you really want to go super in depth on like one piece or tune or whatever it is, then you can allow yourself to do that. And you don't have to be super strict and stay with this framework indefinitely. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. And I like it because there is structure, but to me, it doesn't feel overly disciplined. So it still feels a little bit loose, and I have flexibility to change things or go in a slightly different direction if I feel like I need to for like a period of days. But yeah, this could be something you could try for yourself if you feel like you want like a little bit more focus or guidance from day to day in your practicing. And if you'd like, you can actually download a copy of my sheet and a blank sheet. Those are included in my practice kit if you want to just follow the link, and you can give it a try for yourself.